message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-drift.
Roger, nice to see it all. The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Broadcasting from a shack on a hill, way out on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. It is Wednesday night, December the 11th, on into the 12th, all across this land on this beautiful night. The full moon is approaching, the 12 full moon. And tonight, investigator, actress, also former Navy personnel, Jennifer Marshall joins us, well known for Roswell, the show Roswell Mystery Decoded on the CW, and her role as Max's mother, Billy's stepmother in Stranger Things, Susan Hargrove. And she's got a lot more on her plate than that. We're going to talk about that. Is with us. So this is kind of like our first time, I think, on the show. No, this is our second time, actually, that we've actually got to talk to somebody in the film industry. But we're going to get into that, plus the investigations. And, you know, we've talked quite a bit on the show about what do the people in Hollywood think about this? What do the people in the industry think about what's going on? We're going to get our chance to find out tonight. This show is brought to you by GetTheTea.com. Right now is the time to get it. And I'm going to tell you, you know, being sick the past few days the way I was, I have to thank some of this stuff for helping me get through it. I don't know to what extent, but I do know a few friends right now that actually are doing the cleanse. And I got to tell you, it's working. Also, get your best bottle of CBD oil at ancientlifeoil.com. And if you've had any trauma that you need help with, especially paranormal trauma, you can get one session free Bono from Barbara at Metaphorical Archaeology. Give them a call at 214-995-3754. Listen, I want to thank all of you guys for, saying get well soon, Joe. I got a whole bunch of those, and it kind of was overwhelming. Especially all you guys from the Fringe FM chat. Yeah, this is the second time I got the bug this winter, and I'm getting over them faster and faster each time. You can also support the show by donating. If you go to the website, just use the donate button. You can also grab some swag. We've got more people out there buying clothes, more Void Walkers. We've almost covered every state in this country. I'm not playing. I've got at least one person with some Void Walker gear from every state, and I'm making a map. And when we get done with this project, you're going to see how cool it is. All of you guys that have just bought some more stuff from the store, hey, I want to see you wearing it. Send me your pictures. Also, hey, if you've got an inkling and you want to look at some real journalism in ufology, go to ufoseekers.com, which is backed and supported by the Fringe FM and Lighting the Void. That's how we keep a journalistic approach to things around here. Follow them at UFO Seekers on Twitter. Also, go check out their new season, youtube.com/UFO Seekers. And if you've had a sighting, give them a call at 661 UFO 7889. So tonight, I'm in the third day of recovery from this, so we're just going to go and see how far this thing goes. Now, Jennifer Marshall is with us, and she is a proud Navy veteran turned actress, patriotic pinup ambassador at Pinups for Vets, and Max's mom on Stranger Things. And you may have also seen her as Lieutenant Colonel Bailey in Hawaii Five-0 and in Timeless, Game Shakers, American Housewife, Colony, General Hospital, or Days of Our Lives, just to name a few. And she's a licensed private investigator who's had her own company, Deep Source Investigations. You'll see her hosting her own show in the summer, which is, we've already watched episodes of it, Mysteries Decoded on the CW network. So I kind of wanted to first, like right out of the gate, because we never ever get to ask these questions ever.
Yeah.
How do the people in Hollywood, how do you guys feel about this UFO stuff and paranormal? Let's just stick with ufology, because right now, all on our end, especially me being I'm a huge nut for Stranger Things, by the way. It's like my favorite show in the world. So it's really cool to talk to you. But, I often wonder how the film industry looks at it, even from an actress point of view. Do you think that Hollywood's taking it more seriously?
No, to be honest with you, I talked to a lot of people after the gimbal video came out, and I asked them, if they had seen it and that it was an actual video that was released by the DoD. And I would say 95% of people had no idea it existed. So I would say because of the pace in Los Angeles, people, especially if they're in the industry, they're just trying to make ends meet because it's so expensive to live out here that people they're not that connected. They don't really have an idea of what's going on. It's only once I get out of, Holly weird, as I call it, that I actually find that people are kind of following that.
Yeah. Okay. So do you get treated different? Do you try to talk to anybody about it? I mean, or you just, no, I'm just going to go in here, play my part, do my thing, what you do really good, and just not really get involved with it on that kind of level?
We do talk about things on set because you get to talking, and a lot of being on set is just waiting for an extraordinarily long amount of time. So we get to talking, and then, people find out that I host a show or they know me from the show, and we start talking about things. But for the most part, it's generally more of an informational conversation because a lot of people, they just don't know. And the people that have any sort of interest in UFOs whatsoever probably keep it to themselves, which to me is odd because, a UFO is just an unidentified flying object. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's extraterrestrial in nature, but I think
Right.
that's kind of where pop culture has taken us, that if you believe in UFOs, you must be, some crazy person. But a UFO, it could be a military aircraft. It could be a test aircraft. It could be a lot of things. So I think it's gotten a bad rap.
Yeah. And it doesn't really, it doesn't, you're right. Cause, our friend at UFO Seekers, like he's got real UFO footage on there. He climbed up to Tickaboo Peak and he shot Area 51, but he's also got some real UFOs and he caught with still footage. But that's all they are, right? They're just UFOs. But what happens is, and I think you're right, is, well, everybody wants us to say, well, let's talk about aliens. Well, we don't necessarily know everything is an alien, right? I mean,
Right.
we just got to look at the facts.
Right. And especially with, some of the sightings, I always tend to think if, depending on where they are, I think, okay, that could be a Russian craft, that could be a Chinese craft. We don't necessarily know. And it could be a military craft that maybe another branch is not aware of. It could be something from Boeing that Lockheed Martin is not aware of. So I think we're a little quick as a society to just kind of label all UFOs as extraterrestrial in nature. But with that being said, I do believe it's very possible, if not probable, that we have encountered extraterrestrial aircraft.
Yeah, I do too. And when the show on the CW, Mystery Decoded, first started, I mean, you were kind of like a skeptic, right? I mean, how would you say your skepticism has changed, if any, over the course of doing your show?
I would say that I've been a skeptic and I am a skeptic. And I think where my skepticism, I think people, they think if you're a skeptic, you're kind of a debunker. And I think it's different. There are people that I know in my life, especially, who live to debunk whatever it is. And I don't really look at things that way. I try to look at things in a fair and balanced manner and say, okay, what part of this could be true? What part of it is not true? But I look at everything critically. And I think because I'm known as a skeptic, people tend to think, well, you couldn't possibly believe in UFOs. Well, I believe my own eyes. And I know that there's things that we've seen on video that the Department of Defense cannot explain. So at that point, Department of Defense, numerous pilots, a pilot with 3,500 hours in a fighter jet can't explain. I think that definitely deserves a second look.
Yeah, I do too. I think it needs more of an extensive, I guess, investigation. And speaking of which, you do private investigations. Have you Now I know obviously you can't talk about what you've done and in detail and stuff, but have you investigated anything strange? Have you been called out in the field to investigate anything strange in your private investigative practice?
I would say strange and paranormal, no, because someone has to foot the bill for that. So unless it was some eccentric rich person who said, I want you to track this down, that really isn't something that private investigators deal with, which is why the show has been such an amazing opportunity, because no one in my private investigation business is going to say, hey, I'm going to pay for you to go to the Bermuda Triangle and see what's going on down there. So I've had a chance to investigate other things that I wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity for. But in my practice, I tend to deal with more mundane things and occasionally the dangerous issue, but not so much paranormal, just because I don't know that eccentric rich person. But if you're that eccentric rich person, give me a call.
Right. Yeah. See, because I wanted to get involved with that, Jennifer. Once I thought, man, because I watched a lot of what private investigative shows growing up in the '80s, and I wanted to do that stuff. And you find out it's hard work, and a lot of times it's just trying to figure out if so and so's cheating on me or this. It's not really like what's the name of that show? It's not MacGyver. It's another show, but it's not like that, right? It's you have to do a lot of mundane hard work. It sounds like.
It is, and it really depends on what you do. I'm very picky about what I take on, and I know that there's some PIs that they kind of take on anything. I tend to not work on infidelity cases because California, California judges, it's a community property state, so they're going to split the property 50-50, and you can come forward and say, my husband cheated on me with 18 people, and the judge is going to say, well, this is a community property state. So when people come to me and say my spouse is cheating on me, one, it doesn't do them any good in court, and two, it just gets very dramatic. So I try to stay away from that sort of thing just to, keep my hair from getting gray. And I just don't want to deal with it. It's too much.
Magnum PI, that's the show that I watched when I was a kid.
Magnum PI, let me tell you.
Yeah, right. And
yeah, I love it. But there are cases that I've worked on that are dangerous. That you just, anytime you're looking into human trafficking, that's very dangerous. And anytime that you're doing surveillance or you're doing, you're just following someone pretty much, that's dangerous depending on who you're looking into. So I would say it's more mundane than dangerous, but there's definitely days where I think, oof, dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, I bet. We could ask some more questions about that too. I think what's really egging me right now is to find out, I feel like that, I know you say that you guys don't talk about it much on set when you're doing your films and doing your work and stuff, but doesn't it seem like there's just more and more shows? Can you speak on that? Like about ufology, the paranormal, sci-fi? I mean, to me, unless it's just my perception, it's really big right now, and it's getting bigger. But that just could be me. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree. I definitely feel like it's getting bigger, and I think a driving force behind that has been podcasts, because all these podcasts, it's a free medium. They kind of came out of the woodwork, and I think it really let advertisers know and creators and executive producers know that there is this interest in the paranormal. And, my network, the CW, they've been really great at kind of tapping in to that generation and what they're into and what they like. And a lot of it is the supernatural, paranormal kind of stuff. And you really can't blame, TV shows for leaning that way nowadays, because especially with politics and how stressful everything is, regardless of what party you are. It just seems like, Democrats and Republicans are at each other's throats. Of course, people are going to want to unwind and unplug and just lose themselves in a show. So when you're dealing with a show that's paranormal or supernatural in nature, that's a really great escape from a really, really difficult world right now.
So tell me, how fun was it being on Stranger Things? It was fun, wasn't it?
Oh man, it was so surreal. It was so wonderful. It was so amazing. I was such a huge fan of season 1. And when I got on set, I just kind of felt like for the first few hours that I was outside of my body watching this happen. And, we're sitting at the table, we're eating lunch, and I'm looking around at these people who are very famous that I know and I've watched their work for years. And, a part of me thought they're going to say, Jennifer, the jig's up. You're an imposter. Get out of here. One thing is not like the other. And thankfully, nobody did that. And I was warmly welcomed. But it was incredible. And it was one of the best sets I've ever been on.
A freakishly successful show, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I thought I look so different than, Susan Hargrove, Max's mom. I look so different in person. And I think because she's very much a victim and she's very soft spoken, people don't expect me to be as tall as I am. I'm 6 feet tall. So when I meet people in person, I was still surprised that people still recognized me because, this is 2019. I clearly don't walk around with 80s hair. That's always a nice surprise when somebody recognizes me because we are just so different, the character and I.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, you did great in that scene because there's no way you could, how some scenes, just like some radio shows, people are half in and half out, right? Mm-hmm. Not that scene, not the big scene where, the stepdad's getting in Billy's face and he's supposed to apologize to you and everybody's just really on the edge. I mean, that was a good scene. I mean, it felt super real to me.
It was incredible. And the energy in that room during the takes, the room was just abuzz with energy. And then I really have to show my appreciation for Will and for Dacre, who play Neil and Billy, because when they went to do my coverage of my reaction shots, because a lot of that scene, I'm reacting to what's going on and I'm not necessarily speaking because, I don't believe that's my place to speak. They actually acted out that scene with the cameras off of them so I could get genuine reactions. And, people who don't work in the industry, they don't understand that that's generally not what happens. What happens is they bring in stand-ins or they say, okay, they have the actors leave and then they say, act scared, act this, act that. So the fact that they were willing to stay there with me and run through the scene an additional time really spoke to their professionalism and just their love of the craft. And I'm indebted to them for that. Wow.
Yeah. I believe you. I've always, I tried to get in acting myself, but I didn't realize there was so much involved with it. Back in the day, they make you stand. This is my right profile, my left profile, all this other weird stuff. I'm like, they putting makeup on. I can't do all that. So my hat's off to you. It's very hard. It is.
Yeah, it's very difficult and people don't, and I didn't understand. Thank goodness I didn't understand. I would have walked away. People don't understand that it's insanely difficult. You think, okay, I'll go here and I'll stand in the corner. I'll get discovered. Like that's sort of the thought process. I had an education when I came here. I had a double major in international politics and Spanish with a minor in history. And when I came here, I went to school for acting. You go to school for acting, you learn on-camera acting, you learn improv, you learn commercials, and you're spending a lot of time kind of honing that audition technique. And then by the time you get into a room, you're hoping, please don't let me blow this, because if I have a bad audition, this casting director won't bring me back. You're constantly worried about, not at this point in my career, but I remember being a younger actor thinking my agent's going to drop me. I have to book this. I have to book that. I have to be across town in 35 minutes when it takes an hour and a half. So it's very, very stressful, and it's financially, it's very expensive to do it. And 95% of actors are unemployed at any given time. So I've been very, very blessed.
Yeah. Well, that must mean you're good at it, right? That's the thing. That's must what it means. You've also done these other, Colony, Game Shakers, Timeless, Hawaii Five-0. Hawaii Five-0 is a fantastic show.
I loved it.
But do you ever get tired of people going, oh, you're in Stranger Things, now I want to talk to you? Because that's, from people like me, it's like, I didn't know you were in these other movies. I remember you from Hawaii Five-0 and Stranger Things and the new CW show, but I didn't know about the other stuff. So do people recognize you more for Stranger Things, or do they recognize you more from your new show, you think?
Oh, my new show for sure.
Right.
Just because, I'm a 6 foot tall redhead with long hair. So
Right.
yeah, that's really hard to come by. So people definitely recognize me from that. I just did the Hollywood Christmas parade, and, I thought, okay, I have this card, it has my name on it, it has the show on it. And I thought that's why they're screaming my name, because who knows who I am, right? And I was walking back to my car with my family, and I did not have anything on me that said my name. And there were about 20 people who, after the parade, were like, Jennifer, come, take a picture, sign this with me. And I was just like, what? How do these people know? But the show's been really, it's been really successful for the CW. I think they're pretty happy with it. So, yeah, definitely that. But Stranger Things, if I'm like at a convention or something, then people kind of hone in because they're like, oh, Stranger Things, you're at a convention. They kind of get that that's why I'm there. But it's just because on Mysteries Decoded, I look like myself. And on Stranger Things, I was in a few episodes and I don't really look like myself.
Yeah. Well, you know what I will say about Mysteries Decoded? There is, that show really makes you think, right? I mean, that's what it does. For me,
Yeah.
say if you're just a total skeptic, you go to the show, right? And you're like, I don't believe in UFOs, none of this stuff. This is actually one of the shows where it's not, I hope I don't offend anybody, or you either, but it's not fluffed up. There's stuff in there that is real,
We actually film enough for 3 episodes, every single episode. And I always wonder how it's going to be cut together. There's a bunch of people that we talk to, experts, witnesses, that don't necessarily make the final cut because we only have 42 minutes. So it's pretty extensive. And I did want to mention, you asked me if I ever get sick of people referencing Stranger Things. Yeah. I never get sick of that because I just feel like I've been so blessed to be a part of a show that's easily one of the top 10 shows in history. And I can be 95 years old and still identify as, yes, I was Max's mom on Stranger Things. I'm incredibly grateful for that opportunity, and it will never grate on my nerves at all.
That's so cool, because that's the way I'd be too. It'd be to me, it'd be like being on the Goonies or something. Like I was on the Goonies,
Yeah. Yep.
That's exactly how it would feel. Listen, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we'll have more questions. Also want to talk about your Navy career and probably talk a little Montauk project with you, if that sounds cool with you, Jennifer.
Oh, let's do it.
All right. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to The Fringe FM.
This is Corbin, son of the one and only Joe Root, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
I think by now we can get the information.
I love magic, and on Lighting the Void, each and every week, you will get to hear shows about magic, mysticism, and many other subjects that stretch your mind and imagination. So when I got my mind on the magic and the magic on my mind, I listened to Lighting the Void on the Fringe FM. It's magic.
May the gods look with favor upon you.
You're wondering what we're going to do to you, aren't you?
Hey, this is No Way Jose, a Northern California Piscean stuck in the Arizona desert. I'm a void walker, and I got the shoes to prove it. So what do I do when my soul yearns to delve deep into the realm of the unknown? I aim my satellite straight into the night sky and catch a smooth ride on the KTLK-DB radio waves. I tune into Lighting the Void with Joe Root on the Fringe FM.
Joe, Lighting the Void is the best show on the planet. This is Barney, your friend from Facebook. Thank you and all the crew for all you do. Namaste, my friend.
This is Macon from the foothills of North Carolina, and I am a void walker.
G'day, void walkers. This is Lily from down under Australia. The world may be small, the enigma is greater. So let your curiosity take you for a journey with Joe Root.
Hey, this is V, coming in from Central Maryland, and I am a void walker.
This is Kevin Doherty, a beginner void walker. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I know a little about a lot, and as Leonard Skinner said, I'll guess the rest. I learned a lot from Mr. Root and the show, and heard it from the beginning. I knew right then he was going to be a new Art Bell. Thanks for all your shows, and keep it up.
Hey, this is Derek from Mass, a.k.a. the Night Stalker, and I'm a Void Walker.
This is Mark from Chicago, and I walk the void to ascertain what is consciousness.
My name is Jared Johnson, and I'm from Humboldt County, California. I do not know all of the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm a Void Walker. Thanks, Joe Root.
Okay, here we go. AncientLifeOil.com. AncientLifeOil.com. Now, this is for CBD. AncientLifeOil.com. Again, for CBD. Where do I get CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. It's pretty good stuff. Organic, non-GMO. We are the Ferrari of CBDs. AncientLifeOil.com. You know, they say when you mention a person's name 3 times when you first meet, that you're going to remember. So I'd say to you, nice to meet you, AncientLifeOil.com. It's AncientLifeOil.com, right? Nice to know that you help people. AncientLifeOil.com. Think about this. Occasional stress, occasional anxiety, occasional inflammation, occasional stiffness, and intruders that get you down. AncientLifeOil.com. Okay, so I'm going to give you a fact for the day. So Ancient Life Oil does not help you with business deals. Hold on a second. If you feel better, it could help you make a better decision. Okay, I'm wrong. Just remember to go to AncientLifeOil.com.
Come, walk through the mossy creek and up the hill. Never mind the flashing lights and otherworldly shadows. They stay hidden within the trees. Come, step up to the shack and begin your journey to the answers that you seek. This is Lady Anne, and you are listening to Lighting the Void on the Fringe FM.
Alright everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, me old China plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
You're listening to Lighting the Void. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. If you would like to text, you can text in at 501-777-5631.
All right, we are here with actress, Navy veteran, and investigator Jennifer Marshall, and we were just talking about her show Roswell, Mysteries Decoded. And being a Navy veteran, though, I want to get into a little bit of Montauk Project talk with you, but I wanted to ask you too, being a Navy vet, we speak about UFOs all the time, especially my buddy Tim Doyle from UFO Seekers, which some of his footage was actually used on that show. He's amazing with videography. He climbed Tickaboo Peak just to get a shot of Area 51, which I thought was pretty cool. And
right.
Here's the thing, though. Is it true that it's mainly Navy folk that see most of the UFOs in the military? Because that's what we're hearing. We're hearing that the Navy see this stuff all the time. And you were in the Navy. Did you see UFOs all the time?
I did not see UFOs all the time, but I can tell you that it's probably more prevalent in that particular branch because we have an air component. So we have, pilots and we have planes that go aboard the aircraft carrier and are also in squadrons. So we have that aspect, which is what the Air Force has, but then we also have ships out to sea. And when you're out to sea in the middle of the ocean for weeks on end, especially during the night, there's really nothing out there. So if you're standing watch in the middle of the night and you're looking out to sea, if there are lights out there and they're not stars, it does make you wonder what's going on. It's possible it could come from another ship in the battle group. But when we're not in flight ops, it's very rare to see anything in the sky when you're in the middle of the ocean.
Really? Okay. So
yeah,
maybe some of that stuff, what I've been told. Well, see, we talk about UFOs and USOs. So there's this belief that there's actual ships that come out of the water. And we've had people on the show like Preston Dennett, who's, interviewed people, and they say that they've seen these ships come out of the water. Now, we've seen these military videos of like Go Fast and stuff, and it does appear that that could be a possibility, but I'm kind of a skeptic. I don't know where you stand on this stuff, but when it comes to USOs, I'm a skeptic, and a lot of people don't like that. They don't like the fact that I don't just jump to alien all the time, but you got to give me more. Even to me, you got to give me more than just FLIR footage too sometimes.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Because you don't know what it is.
Right. And I think for me, I'm far more open to the idea of a UFO that's extraterrestrial in nature and not necessarily a USO. I think if there was a USO, I would tend to think that it's military in nature. And one of the things Commander Fravor, for the listeners who may not be familiar, he's a fighter pilot who his camera ended up taking this footage that the DoD later released, and they didn't know what it was. He had written in his report that he saw some sort of docking station in the ocean where the surf came back and you could see something there. So for me, this man was a naval aviator for, over 20 years. He had 3,500 flight hours. This is someone who knows what he's seeing, and he doesn't have a reason to make something up or be silly or seek fame or any of those sort of things. So I do take what he says a little more seriously than I would take, someone maybe who has kind of a desire for fame or fortune. That's not Commander Fravor, and that's not most military individuals, or we wouldn't join the military. It's not really a conduit to fame for most of us.
Well, I wonder about that because I've never been in the military, and people say, it's human nature, right, to not keep a secret. It's human nature to, when you see something strange or something odd, that you're going to tell everybody. And so I wonder just how, when the military says, okay, this is classified, you're not supposed to talk about this or don't talk about that. And I don't know your experience with it either, but how serious is it? Like, do you think people can actually keep these kinds of secrets? Because that's an ongoing myth busting type thing in our community, where people are like, look, nobody can keep these types of secrets, no matter what the government says. But I beg to differ. I think the government could scare people quite a bit. What do you think?
I think it's twofold. I think that the government can scare people, certainly, and they've shown intimidation tactics to certain individuals. And I also think that, when you are in the military, and I can only speak for that particular scenario, but when you're in the military and you work towards something, you gain rank, you gain expertise, you have a security clearance, not keeping that secret could mean the loss of everything. So yes, I think that humans aren't really good at keeping secrets, but I think when it comes down to that, that's a tough thing to kind of say, okay, this is worth my entire career. I don't know many people who would be willing to gamble with that.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know, because I've had other people say, well, they'll lock you up for it in the military. They'll just simply lock you up. So I don't know.
Well, sure. I mean, look at Chelsea Manning, Bradley Manning. When I will speak about, what he did, because it was his name was Bradley Manning when he did this. Bradley Manning went and, spilled a bunch of secrets and ended up going to jail and, is now out. But it definitely is, it's a serious issue. And I did not hold a security clearance at my first command. And I actually, I saw some things and I heard some things that, in retrospect, I'm like, I should not have known that. I was 19 years old working in the supply department. That's something I should not have been privy to. And when the Area 51 episode came up, I thought there are just some things that I don't know if they've been declassified, but it's not my place to say that I know them or talk about them. So I think that being military, we do have a respect for national defense, and We know that it's not necessarily our place to blab, what the government is working on or what they've worked on in the past, because to me, what's important most of all is national security and our defense. And it's not worth telling a secret just because I have a secret to be told.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I do. But when it comes to, when it comes to the Montauk Project itself, right, which everybody knows I'm hoping is an alleged series of secret government projects conducted at Camp Hero or the Air Force Station in Montauk. What do you think about all of that? Have you looked into that? Have you researched it? What's your opinions on it?
When I first looked into it, I thought, okay, this is a nice little story. The more that I looked into it, it was very clear that the Montauk Project, it's hard to say. My co-host on that episode, Sam Tripoli, he hosts Tin Foil Hat podcast. And so he's very much into conspiracies. I'm a little bit more grounded. And so he kind of bought the Montauk Project with everything under its umbrella as, yes, all of this happened. So that includes the time travel with the USS Eldridge. That includes, them working on children and harnessing psychic power. That includes mind control experiments. That includes the kidnapping of children. So he was in belief that the Montauk Project as an umbrella, he believed in all of the projects. I said, I really have to look at each one of these claims and judge it on its own merit. So we looked at time travel. We looked at what happened with the Philadelphia experiment. I do not find that to be credible. There are other explanations for that. We looked at, were they kidnapping children? The numbers do not support that. On a large scale, it's possible that children could have been brought there during the day. It was a different era. Kids were running around. Do I believe that the government was in charge of it? I don't. I think that there were 2 or 3 individuals who were working for the government who used that as a ruse to project this power on children, to make them more likely to come with them. And I think that, things did happen at Camp Hero. To what extent, I don't know, but there was a house that they called the Acid House. Are you familiar with it?
Kind of. Are you talking about where they did the psychedelic experiments?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So they did psychedelic experiments there, and Brian Minnick is a researcher who's been there. He has been all over Camp Hero. He has videos. He has hours of videos. He has dozens, if not hundreds of pictures before they started tearing things down. So one of the things that he showed us was the Acid House. And I looked at an old map, and the old map had it marked as military housing. It had it marked as officer housing. So Brian, not being in the military, he didn't realize the significance of that. I told him, I said, when it's officer housing, especially if it houses an 05 or an 06 and his family, that is only certain people can go there. So that eliminates 99% of base personnel from even going anywhere near there because they're not allowed near there. That is the commander or the captain's, whatever the rank is, colonel, depending on the branch, that is their house for their family. So that is a perfect way to kind of hide something in plain sight. You say, well, this is the house for the commanding officer, the executive officer, and then nobody goes there. But then once it wasn't a base anymore and people went in there, why on earth are all of these different rooms with psychedelic patterns? That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So I think that definitely gives credence to some of these accounts.
It is kind of scary when you think about just what the links that these programs are willing to go. I mean, we don't know all the facts, right? Like, we don't know everything factually, but what I can tell you from just my, internet research, and you've probably extensively researched this a little bit more, but is that they do go to extents that it's beyond belief sometimes to cover stuff up. I mean, they just do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So we don't know what they're doing or what they're up to. We like to talk about it and think that we know, but I think sometimes we don't want to know. We really don't want to know, I think.
I think that's the easy way to live, right? Is a lot of our population, and I'm not saying, that I know everything that's going on with everything. That's not remotely true, but I do try to stay aware because our population is a Twitter-based population where it's like, oh, I'm just going to read tweets, skim headlines, watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and it's kind of this baseline level of knowledge. And when you have that, you don't have to think about conspiracies, or is the government doing this, or is a big company doing this, is pharma doing this? It's easier to just kind of accept what has been fed to you by the mainstream media. And, you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I also don't believe everything the government and big corporations tell us. That's silly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And there's a question in the chat room from the Night Stalker, and he's asking, as an actress, do you think that they reveal secrets in movies and TV sometimes? Because we just, in our genre, and I'm sure you've heard it before, we laugh at some of the stuff that is shown in movies and shows, almost as if whoever wrote it, you know, is secretly putting this stuff in here to show us what's going on. I mean, Stranger Things is, if you've studied the Montauk Project and you've really looked into this, it's no doubt showing you these types of things. I don't know what you can say or whatever, but it seems like they do that in a lot of shows where we get all these Easter eggs and secret, I guess, signs to some of the stuff that's going on in the background, if that makes any sense.
I would say that if that is happening, and I know of a couple movies that I've watched where I've been like, I see ya. I think that is something that is limited to the writer or something the producer put in, something that one or two individuals put in. I don't believe that that's anything that, you know, Hollywood knows as a whole, because if you look at Hollywood, it's a very liberal place. People are very interested in the arts. I have received a lot of pushback from a few individuals because of my military background, because I believe in national security and I have different views than a lot of people there. So I don't think that people who work in the industry are necessarily hip to those things, just because it's all encompassing. When you are working on a television show, you don't have time to think about anything else. It's just that. It's that 14 hours a day, 16 hours a day. So I do think it's possible, but I don't think that as a whole, if you look at a movie and there's an Easter egg in it, the director knew, the executive producer, the producer, it's not a widespread sort of thing, unless you're looking at a documentary or you're looking at a production company that's very targeted in what they put out, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. It does. Cause we talk about other stuff here, and I was just going to ask you about that too. I meant to ask you earlier. Are you interested in any other things? Cause right now it's kind of like sci-fi. You've been involved with stuff like that, sci-fi, ufology, but are you interested in any other things? Like, what are your thoughts and opinions on, I don't know, paranormal topics like sleep paralysis, shadow people, cryptids? Have you ever looked into any of that?
Yeah, I have. And, you know, with a lot of these cryptid sort of things, Mothman, for example, I think one of the theories that makes the most sense to me with Mothman was that he was extraterrestrial in nature. Whatever it was that people saw when there were, you know, a few hundred reports in West Virginia and Ohio, I have to believe that was something extraterrestrial in nature, because it was not a man in a suit. It was not someone with a jetpack. The police separated these young couples who all had the sighting, had them write down their stories, and all of them matched. Everybody's accounts in the beginning were very similar. So I think it's more of a stretch to say it was some sort of conspiracy where everybody got together to kind of make this happen. It was not an owl. It was not a sandhill crane or anything like that. Now, after Mothman sort of picked up steam, I do think that by default, everything became Mothman. So people saw an owl and said, oh, it's Mothman. They saw a crane, they heard a noise. And immediately after that, everything was Mothman by default. But the sightings in the beginning were much too descriptive, and they matched too much for something to not have existed. So I'm not a huge believer in all cryptids. I take them on a case-by-case basis, but I think that's the deal with Mothman. And I think with Bigfoot, I think it is quite possible that there is a species that exists that is very small in numbers that we don't know what this species is. And eventually, once the species is identified, people will come forward and say, well, hey, that's what we called Bigfoot for years. Dr. Joseph Meldrum, that I talked to in Dr. Jeff Meldrum, I'm sorry, I've talked to so many doctors, they're clogging my brain. He specifically researches Bigfoot, and there's a creature named the Yeren in China that is very similar to Bigfoot, and he has compelling evidence that this creature does in fact exist. So I think when people are so quick to say Mothman's fake, Bigfoot's fake, Jersey Devil's fake, all of these things just off the top of their head, they're fake. Just because we don't have proof they exist does not automatically mean that they're fake. I think we have to look at the evidence we have and say, what is the best guess of what happened based off of what we know?
I've got a feeling that, well, answer this for me if you can. If there was an ultimate case, let's say you got a phone call and it was an investigation, what would be the one thing that you would always want to, you've always wanted to investigate? Because I got this feeling like if you got a call, like you said before, like an eccentric person, but if you got one of those calls, you would really dig it, right? I mean, you became a private investigator for a reason, and I got to think there's something to this whole X-File type research that you're really into. Am I right or wrong?
No, absolutely. I think the one thing that is really compelling to me right now is the Titanic conspiracy. Are you familiar with that?
A little bit. Yeah. We've got a listener that talks about it quite a bit.
And a lot of people they look at this, and when you tell them maybe it wasn't the Titanic that sunk, then people automatically want to say, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist or a lunatic. So the theory is basically that the sunken ship was actually its sister ship, the Olympic, which was almost identical to the Titanic. So the reason that it was switched, if this is in fact true, was that it was an insurance scam. The captain of the ship had previously been the captain of the Olympic. It had gotten into accidents, and the ship at that point developed a 2-degree list to one side. There were a certain number of portholes that didn't match up. There were other things that led people to believe this was a massive insurance scam. So supposedly what they did was they changed the Titanic to the Olympic to the Titanic. They took the Olympic out as the Titanic, and it was sunk. They knew that it had problems. And they thought that they were going to have another ship come rescue them. They didn't believe that all the people were going to die, but they ended up dying. And that ship was really the Olympic, and it was just to get insurance money because the Olympic was not able to be insured anymore. It was not able to be taken out. And if that's true, I mean, what a horrible situation to happen from just an insurance scam, that all of those people died.
So it's a big cover-up, basically.
Yes,
and then for insurance.
Yes, and then there's also a theory that the Titanic's owner wanted to eliminate several bankers who were opposing his plan for the U.S. bank, for a U.S. central bank to be created. So, that's one that I find a little more kind of out there. I could kind of see the insurance claim, given the list of the ship and the number of portholes was different. There's several things. There's a number on a rudder, and this has been several months since I've looked into this, so forgive me. There's a number on a rudder that corresponded to the opposite ship. So there's definitely things that make you say, hey, what's going on here? But of course, anyone who questions the narrative given to them by the mainstream media, is a crazy person or a lunatic. No, I would ask all your listeners, whatever is presented to you as fact, you should look into that and say, is this really fact, or is this just, something that they're trying to tell us to calm us down?
Boy,
to have us not look into it.
You hit the nail on the head with that. And I got to tell you, I'm not asking you for your opinion. If you want to give it, you can. But the whole To the Stars Academy, there's so much peer pressure there to go along with it, especially if you're in the media in any kind of way. There's so much peer pressure there to go along with it, to jump on board, to be a part of it. But my gut is one of those things that I've learned to listen to time and time again. And when I didn't, I was really wrong. And I got this feeling that this is a controlled narrative, kind of like, okay, the information is out. It's starting to leak out. There's too much activity. There's too much internet. There's too many people researching this stuff. They're going to know. So let's control this in a way that we can with a rock star and a book company. And come on. I mean, Tom DeLonge, I'm all for it, by the way. I think this is historical, so it's not totally negative, right? This is historical, but Tom DeLonge is a rock star. He's never nervous about going on stage. He's a rock star. That'd be like me saying, are you going to get nervous to do a scene or come on this radio show? You probably weren't nervous at all. You've done hundreds of them.
Oh, no, but there are actors who get incredibly nervous about that. And I'm not sure why, because that's what we do for a living.
Right. I get what you're saying.
I think I know where you're going with the Tom thing, but I think I've never thought of it that way. I've thought of Tom as, because people ask me, well, wait, are you a private investigator or are you an actress? Like, which one are you?
Both.
And I'm like, I'm both. And they're like, oh, and then wait, so you were in the Navy or you played someone in the Navy? So I think it's possible that, it's different sides to a person, just like it's different sides to a die. And I think that he's one of those guys where he was a rock star and then he had this really pressing interest in this. From what I know of him and what I've seen of him, I don't think that he is like this person that's put out as a puppet or anything. I just think he's one of those wacky guys in Hollywood who is not content to just say, okay, I'm a rock star. He is chasing whatever his truth is, he's chasing that, and that's meaningful to him. Yeah. But what you're saying about people being put out as puppets, kind of, I do think that definitely is prominent. And I won't call out people in entertainment, but I've seen that with other people in entertainment for sure, where I do question their motives.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't doubt his story. When I heard him on Joe Rogan and what he was talking, I don't doubt his story. I don't doubt he got questioned and all this other stuff. I really don't. But I think he could be being used for a controlled narrative so that certain sects of the government and military could say, okay, here's a cookie. Now stay away from our cookie jar. Right? Like,
well, yeah. I mean, isn't that the easiest way is, how many times do you see terrorist attacks where they do something in one location to pull all of the EMTs and the rescue workers to one location to deflect because they're going to have an attack in another location. So of course, that's the easiest way to kind of say, hey, look over here, look over here, look over here. And everyone's looked over there and they're not paying attention to what's really going on. So is that possible? I mean, definitely, it's definitely possible. The government is very savvy.
Yeah.
Extremely savvy in what they do.
Yeah. Right. And when he did the presentation, it was another historical thing. It was like an award ceremony presentation thing, but it was strictly like an internet broadcast. And I'm watching Tom DeLonge get up on stage and present this thing. And he was hot under the collar, man. Like, he was nervous. You could see the redness in his face. And I get what you're saying now, because I've never looked at it that way. Certain things you could be cool about because you're used to it. Other things may be something you're passionate about, so it's important, so it causes you to be nervous. I've never really thought about it that way. But he just looked nervous to me, really nervous.
Well, one time I was on a show and I had to learn a dance. And I'm not a dancer. Oh, at all. At all. I mean, in the club, fine, but a choreographed dance, no way. So when I got to set that day, I had practiced for days. And when I got to set that day, I was nervous. I thought I was going to make an idiot of myself. I was definitely uncomfortable. So I do think it's possible. I mean, I'm a public speaker. I speak often. I interview people all the time. I'm interviewed all the time. But for some reason, when it comes to dancing, it's not something I'm comfortable with. And it shows. It shows on my face. I don't want to do it. So maybe he's in that position as well. Or maybe the government gave him a little call. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll never know, right? That's the thing about it. We'll never know.
No,
Okay.
I think Tom's the type of guy he would tell on his deathbed. Like when he's 93, he would say, "No, this is the truth. This is what's happening." I think he would spill the beans, if he's on his way out.
Or he might put it in a science fiction book. You never know. Right?
You never know, right?
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about your work too and get to some more questions. And yes, I do see your comment about the Titanic, Curtis. That's interesting. I'll bring that up when we come back with Jennifer Marshall. Stay with us.
This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
I'm Ryan Gable, and I want to remind you to keep your radio, phone, tablet, or computer tuned to The Fringe FM, and visit the website thefringe.fm to listen to the entire lineup of shows. You can also catch my broadcast, The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, beginning at 12 a.m. midnight U.S. Pacific Time, right here on The Fringe FM.
Alex. Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
OMG! People are jumping on board to the Life Change Tea Regiment. Brew, steep, and drink for a gentle, taste-great cleanse. It's changing how they feel. See what everybody's talking about. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Life Change Tea aids in digestive slowdown and helps people get moving down a healthy path. We won't make claims. We'll just let you decide. Experience is much better than a commercial anyway. If you want results, log on to getthetea.com and purchase your super strength cleansing tea. You won't be disappointed. And if you're looking for some mind-body suggestions, go to YouTube and punch in the search bar Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. Put power into your health now. So, getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com for super strength tea. And YouTube, Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now for valuable suggestions. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
This is Reverend John M. Polk. Please visit me at johnpolkmedia.com and visit my show, Quantum Hologram Matrix, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, every Tuesday on thefringe.fm.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
My name is Jake. I'm from Billings, Montana, and I am a void walker.
Hey, Joe Root. Thanks for lighting the void. This is Janine in the bluegrass of Kentucky, and I am a void walker.
What's up, guys? This is Damien from San Marcos, Texas, and I'm a void walker. I listen to the show to keep myself aligned with the world.
Hi, this is Laura, aka Laura Lavender. I'm from Las Vegas, and I listen to Lighting the Void because it helps me understand some of the strangest experiences I've had. So thanks for all that you do and for always being there for us, Joe.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void Radio. I'm your host, Joe Roop. And this show is live for you 5 nights a week, 9 p.m. to midnight, Monday through Friday, right here on the Fringe FM, KTOK Digital Broadcasting. Tonight our guest is Jennifer Marshall. If you want to go to the main hub for her, that's jennifermarshall.com. Best known for appearing on Stranger Things too. Also she's mostly known for her new show, Roswell, Mysteries Decoded. Also on Hawaii Five-0, Timeless Game Shakers, Colony, and what we've talked about extensively tonight is her field of private investigations. And I think it's cool. I mean, everybody wants to be a private investigator at least once in their life, right? And you're actually getting to do it.
Until they have to do surveillance and want to pee themselves for hours on end. Yes.
So how long have you actually, what's your longest stakeout, you think?
Oh, it was something I did early on in my career, and I farm it out now. So if I get surveillance, I farm it out. Yeah, I farm it out too. There's a couple that take some of my surveillance, a couple of PIs that are married, or it's generally a guy, because I like to be well hydrated, and that is not the job for a woman that wants to be well hydrated. Let me tell you.
Really? How long can it get though? Seriously.
Okay. Workman's comp. I mean, sometimes workman's comp, you are waiting for somebody to, it could be all night. It could be, is this person going out to a strip club? Is this person going out in the middle of the night? There's one guy who's playing golf at 3 a.m. just in his backyard, just hitting ball after ball after ball. And that sort of thing, it's you wouldn't think that somebody would be doing that at 3 a.m. But I guess he thought, hey, it's 3 a.m. Nobody's going to be watching me. Maybe he had insomnia. Who knows? But surveillance can get lengthy, to put it lightly.
Days, right?
Yeah.
Days on end. It looks cool in the movies, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks cool in the movies because something happens right away. But that's generally never, what it is. I have worked on surveillance cases where, and I'm telling the audience, it is not legal to put a GPS unit on a car you do not own. That is not legal. Generally, you have to have your name on the title. Don't do it. You can get in a lot of trouble. Check your state laws. This is not legal advice. But if sometimes I've had clients who have owned a car with his or her spouse, both names are on the title, so they'll put a GPS locator on it. And then I'm able to know when that person is going to work because the GPS has activated. So cases like that, it's nice because then you just wait for the person to get to work or wherever they're going. But if you're just waiting on a side street, especially in Los Angeles, you need permits to stay on most of the streets at night. And if you don't have a permit, you're looking for the cops and you're trying to avoid the cops. So yeah, it's not what it seems in the movies at all.
Well, I think it's really cool that you got to do that. And then this is what I didn't know about you. Should have researched a little bit more. Your education was in politics, right? So what do you think about all this mess now? I mean, for us, and we're hoping that there's going to be a president that comes along and says, okay, I'll be the one that tells you that this is real. But that's never going to happen, right? I mean, from your studies, that's never going to happen, right?
No, I don't think that that's going to happen, unfortunately, because there are just so many different things that go into that. So even if Trump was to come into office, even if he came into office saying, I'm going to tell everybody if there's extraterrestrials, we don't actually know what's going on or what the extent of it is. So yes, in theory, that might be a great idea. But then if you get into national security or you get into something that you feel the general public really won't deal well with, that's dicey. So any candidate who comes in and says, I'm going to pull the curtain back and tell everybody what's going on, I feel like that's kind of flippant, because if you don't know the extent of what's happening and you don't have any idea, to just say that you're going to tell everybody when you don't even know what it is, that's not sure that's the best way to go. And I just don't think that we'll get a president like that. There's too many checks and balances for that to happen. Even if he were to come out, you would have people censoring, cutting off the news, escorting him away, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, we can always hope and dream. I mean,
well, I feel like Trump is, he's probably the president. I can't really think of any other president we've had who has really cared he couldn't care less what the media thinks or what the media says.
Yeah, that's
so
obvious.
if it is, going to be a president, I would assume it would be a Trump or someone like Trump who does not care and does not, buy into what the media expects of him.
Well, yeah. And just a quick political thing, which you'll never hear me say again. If the Democrats want to stand this shot, they better get somebody worth fighting for, because it don't look good if you're want to vote Democrat, because come on. That's what I think about him too. I'm like, y'all watch. Trump's going to slip up and say UFOs are real just because somebody pisses him off. He might just do it.
Yeah. I think he, he just says, clearly he says what he thinks, he says what he feels. And so I think that if he did know about extraterrestrials, if they were real or not, I don't believe he knows. I don't think that he's been briefed on that, because people know that he's a wild card and he's unpredictable. And in some ways, that's really great. And in other ways, it can be not so great. It just depends on the situation.
Okay. So and I agree with you, by the way, and I got the message from Curtis, and he's the one that keeps up with the Titanic ordeal. And he said Olympic collided with HMS Hawk September 20th, 1911 at Bennett's Keel, and they repaired it and all, but you can't fix a keel once it's bent.
Right.
So the backbone of the ship is pretty much what that is, but it sailed crooked, quote, crooked.
Yes.
After that.
2-degree list. Yep.
So many believed it was switched with the Titanic. So something fishy happened. That's all there is to it.
Yes, there are a lot of other sort of things that they just make me wonder, what's happening there. And I don't know. I can't imagine anybody would ever pay me to go try to figure out what that is, but I would love it.
Yeah. Well, can I just say, on behalf of the UFO and paranormal community, we need more people like you in Hollywood, so to speak. We want our people in Hollywood too. Everybody's got their stars that are into their subjects and stuff, but we don't have enough people that are really into this stuff that are in big time Hollywood. At least I don't think so. They're that outspoken about it. You may read an article like Robert Downey Jr. or something likes the paranormal, but that's about it, right? But it doesn't seems like you're getting kind of an image for not the paranormal, but more like the investigative person that's willing to go out to the fringe and just take a deeper look,
Well, you know what I thought was interesting? I interviewed with a lovely reporter from Monsters and Critics, and she had pointed out to me, which I had never thought of before. She said, how does it feel being the first female host in this sort of genre? And I thought, there have to be other women. And I went back and I looked at the men who are kind of prevalent in this arena, and I said, there's not really a female host. And please, if there's listeners who are like, oh, you're forgetting so-and-so, please correct me, because if I am in fact, the first host with a network show on this sort of topic, I feel like in 2019, that's really behind the curve. That should have happened a long time ago. Why now is the first network show happening in 2019? It doesn't surprise me that it would be the CW, because the CW is very progressive and they're very, they take risks, but it just surprises me that I would be the first one. And I hope to goodness I'm not the first one, because this is an area where men and women, can both thrive and both kind of look point. Into.
Because I'm thinking about that, and I can't think. No, I really can't think of any show where a woman has hosted it. Not one. That would be crazy if you are. I bet you are. Have you looked into that, though?
I really do. Yeah. There was one other thing about the Titanic I wanted to bring up that I forgot before we went to commercial. But
sure.
So basically both of the ships, they both had these floors with a type of linoleum in them. And then right before the Titanic sailed, all of the floors were covered in carpet. That wasn't really a thing at that time. Like now we look at carpet and we say, oh, this is plush and nice. But in ships during that time, it was linoleum. So I have to wonder, okay, what is the purpose of that if it's not seen as something that's a luxury or something that's better? What is the purpose in changing this right before they sail?
No one's ever, even, I bet Curtis, you didn't even know that one, did you? Huh. That's interesting. But what is that? I mean, so if they're willing to do that for an insurance cover up, that's some evil, evil stuff, man. Come on. And that was back in the day. So tell me, what are they doing now? I hate to get all conspiratorial and negative, but what is big money and big corporations and even secret government, especially tied together, willing to do now?
Well, think about how easy it was back then. You didn't have people didn't have smartphones. There's only a few photos, a few videos of this. And I think that's how they determined the number of portholes were different, was by one of the videos that was taken, because one of these ships, if I remember correctly, had like 12 portholes. I'm sure your Titanic expert is going to correct me, and I appreciate that because it's been a while since I've looked at it, but I believe it was like 12 portholes versus 14. But nowadays that would never fly because everybody has a smartphone. But back then, who's counting the number of portholes on the photo?
Right. Yeah, you're right. It's the devil's in the detail sometimes, isn't it? Well,
yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you flying our banner on your Instagram too. That was cool. The show promo. And, you don't have to tell us, and I know you can't, but I'm sure your career is progressing in Hollywood, right? You got some more stuff coming up.
Yeah, for sure. So, as actors, we sign non-disclosure agreements, basically saying that we won't talk about anything that we've shot until we get the go-ahead by the production company. So, yes, I'm shooting some things right now. I have something pretty great that I'm looking forward to next year. And this month I got booked on a feature film. So I'm shooting 3 days on a feature film, a really great character who is very much Jennifer. So that'll be nice. And I just had a movie that was released on Netflix called Texas Zombie Wars. And it's a really cool movie because it was a bunch of veterans who got together. We shot in the middle of Texas. It was bare bones. We have vets sitting in helicopters, shooting out of helicopters. We have real firearms. It was an incredible opportunity. It was amazing. And, because we were all vets, nobody had to come in and teach us how to do things. We just knew safety-wise what we had to do and how to operate, weapons and what to do. And it was so great. It was bare bones. It was amazing. It was one of the best sets I've ever been on in my life. So to see it finally released was really great.
I got this feeling too. I'm on your website and you linked to an article, 8 famous women you had no idea served in the military. And I think this is important too, because this to me is kind of important that we notice these things. Do you feel like now that you're in film and you're out there in this kind of role that you have a responsibility towards women in this way to show like, hey, look at some of these accomplishments that women have done. There's no telling, what we can do. I think that stuff's important too. I
absolutely not only feel like I have to show what women have done, but just because a lot of people in Hollywood are, out here it's very isolating. People don't necessarily know veterans. And if they think about a veteran, it's typically their grandfather who served in World War II. So it's been a really wonderful experience getting to talk to people and just showing them that veterans are a microcosm of society. We look like anyone else, and anyone you see on the street could be a veteran. I worked with an amazing playwright named Michelle Brooks. I shared a story of my time in the military, an incident that happened, and she talked to a bunch of different veterans and she made a play called War Words, and they are actors and they're up on stage telling our stories. So, she was someone, she lives in Venice. She was very progressive. She thought that she knew, what military people were like. And she said in the 2-year journey she took writing these stories, she developed such an appreciation for it. And I think that's why it's so important that veterans and people who don't necessarily have the Hollywood mind frame come to Hollywood or come to other environments, because without that, then it's just an echo chamber. And one of the things that I really like is being able to show people, yes, this is, I was in the military, and whatever ideas you have about me probably aren't right. Like, judge me on my own merits and not a preconceived notion. So it's been really great. It's been a learning experience on both ends, and I'm very thankful that I'm here and can share.
Well, I think we don't look at, and people are going to be like, Joe, you're getting sappy on us, but we got this idea, and Joe Rogan gets it out there because he's real kind of alpha male. Yes, men have muscles, and yes, men can, pick up things that women can't and open certain things. But let's think about wartime for a minute. Well, you know what? Have you seen that movie Camp X-Ray by any chance?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Well, I forget the girl's name, but she played in Twilight or whatever. But it kind of shows,
Stewart.
Right? And it kind of shows how she's out in Guantanamo Bay, and she's surrounded by nothing but men on both sides, right? In the camp and military, dealing with all this testosterone. And there's just stuff that goes on that doesn't seem like anybody's winning. But I think every now and then, if we really look at the whole picture of war and what goes on with the military and what goes on in the community, if we didn't have women, we wouldn't get a lot of things that we needed. Not just the fighting. I'm not talking about just battle. I'm talking about like a lot of the nurturing stuff too, right? That stuff matters 100%.
It absolutely matters. And I'll tell you, this is a little bit political, but I'm going to get a little bit political. I'm really tired of the notion that men and women have to be the same. I'm really tired of that, because men and women are different, and we're strong in our own ways, and that's
right.
okay. That's okay to say there are differences. I certainly don't expect my husband to carry our next child. And honestly, if he had a uterus, I don't think that would be good for him, because
Right.
I have a higher pain tolerance. So it's one of these things where in society we've spent so much time saying men and women are exactly the same. No, I've served with men and I've served with women, and there were jobs that women were much, much better at than men. And there were jobs that men overall were much, much better than women. Now, there's always that outlier. I was on the repair locker fire team, which was a collateral duty for me. And, you carry 70 pounds of gear, 65, 70 pounds of gear. I could carry the gear because I'm a 6 foot tall woman and I'm a strong woman. There was a man who tried to be on the team who was 5'3", 110 pounds. It didn't matter at that point whose genitalia was what.
Uh-huh.
What mattered was that there was a huge size differential. So I think that, in that case, yes, I was the only female on the fire team. That's not indicative of women as a whole, but that doesn't mean that women's service is anything less. So I think that it's okay to say men and women are different, and we each have our own strengths. And that's the beauty of men and women serving together. When you try to say, no, they're exactly the same, that's just scientifically and factually incorrect.
It bothers the hell out of me too, honestly.
Oh, I don't understand the narrative. Like, that's supposed to be a progressive narrative, but it's just untrue. And really, in my opinion, it devalues the different things that women can bring to the table.
Yeah, seriously, like it does. It bothers the hell out of me too. And, I think hopefully we'll get through this. I think we're in some kind of weird birthing process at the same time. I'm actually kind of a little bit left, in a lot of ways. But when things get like that, I'm like, okay, whoa. All right, let's pull back a minute here and realize that, yeah, exactly what you're saying. It's okay to have different everything, I mean, we can be different in lots of ways and be okay with it. So why do we have to try to do all this stuff? It doesn't make sense to me either. And my biggest point is we probably don't know all of the stories, and we'll never know all of the stories that women have done in war, especially old wars, right? Where most of the time the men get the medals, but they don't talk about the nurses and all the other women that are out there talking people, nurturing them, trying to get them better, everything that they do. There's so many that never got noticed.
Oh, for sure. And that, that is something where I feel Hollywood has not been very good about representing women's stories, because if you look at the number of roles, there are 50% more roles for men my age than there are women. And that's because, we have war movies and, we have things like that tend to focus on men. But, talking about what women do, I just came across a fascinating story about a female spy during the American Revolution. And she was one of the first spies for the United States. Nobody knows who she was. And she is referred to as Agent 355. I think that would be an incredible movie. Nobody knows who she was. She was a spy. She was, she was a badass. She did what she did. And that's wonderful. But those type of stories aren't necessarily in the mainstream. So I would love to see something like that. If not to just give women a few more roles.
Yeah.
Give us a few more roles. We're struggling here.
Well, yeah, we're about to have to take a break here. Okay. So let me look at some of these text ins. Okay. Yeah, I'll ask. So obviously she doesn't, but I'll ask for you because you text in a lot. Do you know anything about the new season of Stranger Things? Obviously she probably doesn't know that, dude. Come on now.
Well, I'll say this. The reason our show has no leaks is because you only get the scenes that you're in. And that's not because they think somebody's going to go blab, but what if an email is hacked or something? They're very particular about what they do. They're very smart about what they do. And they also have actors sign a very lengthy non-disclosure agreement. And I'm very thankful for that because it stops leaks and it stops spoilers. So I don't know anything. Even if I did, I couldn't say anything, but we are very, very segregated and we don't know. We don't talk to other actors who aren't in the same scene, stuff like that. It's very compartmentalized just to kind of keep the magic of the show. And I am so thankful for that.
Well, look at Game of Thrones, right? The people that were
that's
constantly...
exactly what I was thinking about. Yes. There were so many leaks.
Fake scenes to try to keep it from happening, to confuse people.
Yeah.
That's how bad it gets, right? You're going to, sooner or later though, I'm thinking you're going to really land one of these huge major roles and I'll be like, yep, that's right. I talked to her on my show, right? That's the way I don't know.
I feel like I'm way too outspoken to ever get to that. I'm way too outspoken to ever get to that point. We can hope and see, but I'm definitely I definitely speak my mind, which has gotten me into trouble a few times.
Yeah, well, those are the kind of people we need, and there's no doubt about it. I mean, look, if you look at what you're doing with acting, especially, you've done nothing but progress, by the way. And I think the key too is like always be willing to do work. Don't never say you're too good to do this kind of work, and you already have that mentality with community service.
Yes. Yes, I've never understood people who are like, I don't want to do that. It's beneath me. I'm like, what? So an opportunity is beneath you. Working with creative people is beneath you. Like, what exactly is beneath you? I'm confused by that statement.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm so glad you're that way. All right, yeah. So dang it, we're flying by here, just like I thought we would. We'll be right back with Jennifer Marshall. Go check out the website, jennifermarshall.com. Stay with us.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast. Need another late night fix? You can tune in every weeknight to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop on The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is David Oman with HouseAtTheEndOfTheDrive.com. You're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Paranormal News. I'm Brad Bernards. NASA's Parker Solar Probe may be the closest ever flyby of the sun in August 2018, collecting massive amounts of data using cutting-edge scientific instruments from a distance of 15 million miles. 4 new papers published in the journal Nature Wednesday reveal new findings that could rewrite the way we understand the way stars are born, evolve, and die. They could also help us find new ways to protect astronauts from harsh space weather during long-distance trips through the solar system.
At Earth, it appears that the magnetic field lines flow evenly out from the sun, but Parker saw them behave in a surprising way. The magnetic field lines flip in a whip-like motion turning 180 degrees around in a matter of seconds.
The cause of these switchbacks is still a mystery to scientists, but they could eventually allow us to understand how energy flows away from the sun and throughout the solar system. The probe will be attempting to get even closer to the sun during an encounter on January 29th, 2020. A rocket carrying the investigation of cusp irregularities 5 was launched from Norway at 2:43 a.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, November 26th. The rocket carried the payload to 157 miles altitude. Preliminary data shows the mission did not perform as planned and is under review.
Solar energetic particles are high-energy particles that can endanger both astronauts and satellites in space. The solar wind is the continuous outflow of particles and magnetic field from the sun.
Thanks to our planet's magnetic field, it's mostly deflected away, but head far enough north and you'll find the exception. Most of the Earth is shielded from the solar wind, said Mark Condi, space scientist at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. But right now, near the poles, our magnetic field becomes a funnel where the solar wind can get all the way down to the atmosphere. These funnels, known as the polar cusps, can cause some trouble. The influx of solar wind disturbs the atmosphere, disrupting satellites and radio and GPS signals. Beginning November 25th, 3 new NASA-supported missions are launching into the northern polar cusp, aiming to improve the technology affected by it. Read more about tonight's news at parabnormalradio.com. I'm Brad Bernards, Parabnormal News.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
What's up, Joe? Hey, man, I just wanted to say your show, dude, keeps getting better and better and better. I love Lighting the Void and the Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Hey, this check is wrong. I worked a holiday and 7 hours of overtime. Not getting paid correctly is a real pain. It could also hurt our boss if our company provides out-of-compliance checks. That's right, construction companies doing business with the government can get fined, or officials of the companies can go to jail if the checks aren't right. It's a law. The Davis-Bacon Act has 30 compliance issues for every check, but there is an easy way for construction companies to be in compliance. EMARS offers Compliant Client, a web-based system that finds and corrects all 30 of the possible out-of-compliance check issues. Users of Compliant Client report an 80% savings in time and money. Running a weekly payroll usually takes about 5 minutes. All 15,000 plus clients of EMARS have never had a legal compliance issue. Plus, they sleep better on check day. Contact EMARS at emarsinc.com or call 480-595-0466.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Alex X. Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
You're listening to Lighting the Void.
The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335.
Well, after a big bout of sickness, I'm back here. I'm Joe Root. This is Lighting the Void. And to kick off the week, we're here with Jennifer Marshall, jennifermarshall.com, who I'm now a huge fan of. And I think you should run for office. That's the kind of fan I am of you right now. You should run for mayor, sheriff, just run for something. Get stuff going. What do you think?
Funny you say that. Funny you say that.
Really? So you're going to run, right?
I actually, so I live in the 25th Congressional District of California, and we just lost our congresswoman. There were some nude photos published of her, and she had allegedly engaged in affairs with a congressional staffer, and yeah, people who had worked for her. And I will say allegedly because I don't know, I wasn't there. So it's caused a lot of upheaval in our district, and we're currently without a congressperson. And I was approached to run, for Congress, which I'm not even remotely prepared for, but I was approached to run for the assembly seat before that election. And, I seriously thought about it, and I just said, we want to have another child, and I can't commit the time to it that the constituents deserve. So I said no, but it's definitely something that I want to do in the future. For sure. I feel like we need more politicians who are willing to speak their minds, to work on behalf of constituents, to not give in to whoever's going to line their pockets. And I also think we need more people who are, truthful in what they say, because I think a lot of it is pandering nowadays, and that's frustrating. And I think we deserve better as constituents.
Isn't it bad that and I was telling you about this during the break too. It's bad that in my life, I literally have had to put people that are genuine and truthful with me in a chokehold to keep them in my life because they're so rare. I think that's a problem,
Absolutely.
Especially in where we have our biggest problems, where I'm glad you're is in kind of both ways, is investigations, Hollywood, and even ufology. Like, these are big things for us in this community, actually, we need more people like you doing what you're doing. And just to be frank with you, when I watched the show and I saw Tim's footage up there, and I was like, well, that's Tim's footage, but he didn't kind of really get the credit like I thought he should. But at the same time, the way you were responding to a lot of the questions, I was like, well, wait, she's being super truthful about this, about what she feels and what's really going on. So this is kind of a different change. It's not like when they did that show, they did that other show on the History Channel where it's like a whole remake and they add stuff to it that doesn't exist. I can't stand that stuff. Like, I want real things to come out, man. I want real answers, and we got to have more people like you in there to do that.
Well, it was funny because there was a podcast that it's called the Pilot Podcast, and they basically review pilots of shows. So they reviewed the Lizzie Borden episode of Mysteries Decoded. Roswell was actually the pilot, but it aired sometime in January, and Lizzie Borden aired when the season first kicked off. So I remember one of their critiques, and they were great, and they gave a thorough critique, but one of their critiques was that the continuity during the breakfast scene was off, and that, one moment I had sausage and the next minute I didn't, that sort of thing. And that's because it is not scripted. So when they go in and edit, they're taking out, when the waiter comes in, he talks to us, he says, how are you ladies doing? Things that we don't necessarily have time for in the show. So when you see things like that and you say, well, she's not wearing the same thing, or she's not, well, of course, because we don't plan this out. And then sometimes we have to go back and film something in order for the edit to make sense to the viewer because we've taken out an interview. So, and there are times when I'm on set, several times an episode, I just say whatever I want. And I often wait for the segment director who kind of puts the show together to say, that's a little harsh, or maybe word it a little less. But for the most part, they give me great leeway with saying what I feel and saying what I believe. And I've gotten quite confrontational with some of the witnesses that we've had on the show. Ah, okay.
So I can't wait to read that article in the future where Jennifer Marshall has heated debate with one of the famous director, right? You always see that. That's going to happen. Once you get real big, to me, you're already real big because like I said, I tried my spout in acting, and I had to find out that I was first supposed to be a model before I had to have some kind of look first, and only got to be in a couple of commercials, and I was like, wow, this is really hard. I don't think I'm going to do this, and I wanted it. It was like a dream of mine, but it's really hard to do. So to see that you've made it where you've made it, and you've been on, it's always going to be in my top 5 shows. There's no doubt about it. That's a big thing that's a big thing for us. I'm sure it's a big thing for you too.
No, it definitely is. And we were talking during the commercial about how I'm consistently surprised that I book more jobs because I think, I can be very particular about how I feel or, what I want out of an episode or what I want out of a situation. And I think that sometimes with women that can be misconstrued as she's being a diva. Anyone who's worked with me knows that I'm not a diva. I love my crew that I work with, and I think they're incredible and amazing on my show. I couldn't ask for anything more. But, I am very particular in, I want the viewer to understand this. I want the viewer to understand that. And I think I'm just very focused and very passionate about what I want. So every single time I am cast, I think, wow, that's kind of a miracle in itself because I am very outspoken and I am very, you won't get any BS from me. What you see is what you get. But at the same time, if I'm brought in for a small role on a show, that's not my place to voice my opinion. My role is to come in, play the role, go back to my trailer and go home. Yeah. But if it's something like Mysteries Decoded, where that's my business on the line and my reputation, I am very passionate about, how that comes across, and I want it to come across correctly.
So circling back to what we talked about when you first came on the broadcast, do you feel like in this field we need more, I guess if you had to pick between more skepticism or more open-mindedness, which one would you choose? That's a tough question, isn't it?
It's a difficult question because I feel like so many people maybe it's a mix of it because they just accept what's packaged and given to them. So I think, yes, they need to be more skeptical, but they need to be more open-minded at the same time. I just want to see people thinking for themselves. And, the other night I went to a meeting on vaccines and I thought, anti-vaxxers, I'm not really down for this. This is kind of, I don't know how I feel about it. That's a government conspiracy sort of thing. And I went in with an open mind and I sat there and I listened, and there was a lot of science and there was a lot of, I didn't come out of it an anti-vaxxer, but there were a lot of things that are not revealed to the general public that I went back and I looked and I researched and I thought, gosh, this has some legs. Some of these things, some of these things are problematic at a bare minimum. So I think that that's what we need, is rather than just watching a movie or a TV show and people saying, "Oh, I believe in this." Take what you learn in that movie or TV show, research it some more, look at the other side, just be interested, be involved. We all have these mini computers we hold in our hands. You don't have to be an expert at everything, but find something you're passionate about and look into it. Like, do more than play Candy Crush. I feel like it's so important for us to, we have mini computers and we're looking at cat videos, and I love cat videos. I do. Who doesn't? But I feel like it's such an opportunity to harness, the intelligence of the internet. It's in your hand.
Yeah. And you know what I'm hearing from you? I hear you, and I feel like we should lean a little bit more to the skepticism side, but that's just me. Only I'm not taking away from the open-mindedness, but what I see as of late, especially in ufology in particular, as a willingness to just let go, like you say, and believe in anything. And what it's causing is it's causing like evangelicals. You know how you look in religion and you see these evangelists that are buying jets with everybody's money and all this other stuff? That happens, and it's happening in ufology. And so when I see a show like yours that comes on and wants to know, hey, let's look at the facts. Let's ask the right questions here. That we need more of that, in my mind.
No, I think so too. I think that's so important, is just ask questions, be open to things, and, really dig deep. But I I don't have a lot of hope. I just feel like, people who probably listen to your show, they want to explore things. They're open-minded. They want to look deeper into things. But I try to never go on Twitter because Twitter just ends up being a cesspool of just sound bites and people punching back at you. Oh, it's insanity. And I always think, there's no way this person would talk to somebody like this in real life. But because, they're a keyboard warrior, they think it's okay to just mouth off behind their, whatever their fake name is on the internet. So, I hope that society kind of gets away from that and gets more into, hey, we have the world at our fingertips with the internet. Let's take advantage of that.
Yeah. And, yeah. Well, you've definitely done that. I mean, you've promoted yourself very well. It looks like others are promoting for you, but I mean, you went from, this article says it all, right? From pinup model to right on the set of Stranger Things, from veteran. What does a veteran look like? Stranger Things actress and Navy vet on breaking into the industry. So you've done everything. It seems like that a woman that would want to be an investigator and an actress and everything, you're living the dream, man. You know that? Like, you're a lot of people's hero right now. I can tell you that.
Let me just say, if there's anyone out there thinking, let's say I'm a librarian. I'm just going to be a librarian. I really want to go to law school, but I'm just going to be a librarian. And there's nothing wrong with it being a librarian if that's what you want to do. I'm saying if you feel like something else is calling you. I have never, sat and said, well, I'm a Navy vet, so maybe I couldn't go into pinup modeling because it's kind of weird and it's like totally different than being in the Navy. I've never said, well, I'm an actress, so I can't be a private investigator. I've always just found an interest in something and I've chased that. And I feel like we have these notions that, oh, I'm a cosmetologist, so I have to stay a cosmetologist for 20 years. I change careers probably every 10 years. You don't have to do anything that you're not happy with. And if something is calling you, you only live once. So go out and experience that. And I know that there's probably women listening, and, childcare falls disproportionately to women in our society, not all of the time, but in many families. And I know that there's women saying, but I have kids, I can't do this. It took me 5 years to get my master's degree, and no one cares that it took me 5 years. Nobody asks me. I did my master's degree in between adoptions of my two youngest children. I did one class at a time, and I just trudged through, and I kept my eye on the prize. And the question is, what is your master's in? It's never how long did it take you, because nobody cares. So if higher education is something that you seek, don't allow, oh, I have kids. Your kids will understand that you're doing something for you. And if you need an hour of quiet time in the evening to get that done, they will see you chasing your dreams, and that will make them more likely to chase their dreams when they become adults.
I wish, whoever, who you are, I hope you hear this. I swear this is like one of the biggest synchros of the week. I just got through telling somebody that who is a, single mother, and they've got 3 children. I'm like, you need to sit in front of your children and tell them, it's very important for you to have this time to yourself. And if they got to love and respect you for that, and they'll do it eventually, right? You know how kids are, but
yes,
they'll eventually see that it's important to you.
Right. And for that hour, it could be, I don't know how old the kids are, but it could be, okay, for this hour, it's puzzle time, it's coloring book time, it's PJ Masks time, whatever it is that your kids are into. But I know that my children, my oldest girls now are grown up, and they have said, you know what, you raised kids, you went to school, you worked. There's really no excuse for us not to be able to do that. And I think that was really important for them to have that strong female role model. So if you're a mom or a dad and you're struggling like that, do it. It's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it.
Absolutely. I hope you hear that, who I'm talking to. So if there was one thing that you couldn't do, Jennifer, let's say that you didn't get to be a private investigator, you didn't get to be in the movies, and you never really got to a chance to be in politics. Is there something else that you think that you would be good at?
Yes, it's funny you ask. So I didn't move to Los Angeles to be an actress. I moved to Los Angeles to be a police officer.
Interesting. See, I knew there was something about that about you. Like you're deep into the investigative stuff, right? That's your biggest passion.
So. Yep. I'm very much into true crime. I had wanted to be a major crimes detective, sex crimes detective. And I moved to Los Angeles. I was in the hiring process for a year and a half. I was in the pre-academy fitness program for probably 8 months. And then I got accepted to the academy. And I was in the academy for 4.5 months, the academy 6 months. So 6 weeks before graduation, I ended up leaving because of an injury. And I really struggled with that. I had moved my whole family. We had driven cross country, and I just thought, I don't know what I'm going to do. The only thing I've done was be a sailor, and then I was an actor in Virginia, but it was like small stuff, like local commercials, and I had been a police recruit. So that's not really great skill set to have. Where would I go from there? So, as I was on the mend and I was getting better and going to my doctor's appointments, I found a private investigation school by a detective he's been a PI for about 30 years. He's a former police officer. And so I went there and I thought, well, maybe, this is something that I can do on the civilian side. So I would love to go into law enforcement. And I feel like that's really where my calling is. But what do you do? It's like I host a show and I have roles on shows, and it's hard to kind of walk away from that. Lots of departments don't have age limits, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to do too. I grew up in a family like that, where we watched Law and Order, Matlock, Murder, She Wrote, all the good stuff.
Oh my gosh, love me some Matlock.
Right, Matlock was the best. Perry Mason.
I was like 10 watching Matlock all night.
Yeah, yep. And Perry Mason was a big one for us too. But I think, I don't know. I think this is the first time I've ever done a show. Well, this is the second time, I've ever done a show where I've been nervous. And I think, honestly, I got to tell you, if I'm just going to be honest with you, it's the whole Stranger Things thing. I feel like I'm talking to somebody from like the Goonies. Stranger Things and the Goonies was in the top 5 for me. But do you feel like you would, let's say, is there any other type of film that you would like to be in, honestly? And let's say, well, Jennifer, we're just going to put you in investigative shows for the rest of your life, or Stranger Things or paranormal type, science fiction-y type shows for the rest of your life. And I'm sure after talking to you, you'd be extremely grateful and celebrative over that. But if you could pick a genre to be in, what would be your favorite?
I would say as an actor, I love playing military. It's just, of course, I love my role on Stranger Things. That's not remotely military, but that's because it's such an incredible show. But I would say there's, it's just something near and dear to me that I know that when I put on a uniform in TV or in a film, that the character is going to be portrayed accurately and fairly. And I've never accepted a job playing a veteran that I felt was disrespectful or inaccurate. And for me, when I put on that uniform, it's not a costume. It's a uniform. It means something. People have died wearing that uniform, and I don't take that lightly. So for me, it's about authenticity and fair representation of our community in the media. So yes, I definitely have a soft spot for that particular genre. And also I've played a military spouse. There's a short film that's coming out. It's going to be making the festival rounds where I play a military spouse to a first sergeant who was deployed multiple times to Iraq and Afghanistan. And I am a military spouse as well. My husband and I have been married for 17 years. He retired from the Navy as a chief after 23 years. And I've been that military wife. I've been at home during deployment, so I've seen both sides of it. So I would say that's what's really important to me, is making sure that we have that accurate representation. And that starts with including veterans in the storytelling process.
Fantastic answer. Thank you for that. Okay. Well, let's do this real quick since we got a few minutes left with you here. Quick. We'll go to the chat room. Let me start at the bottom here. No, I'm not asking that question. All right. This is from the Elf.
Hey, I told you it's no holds barred.
All right. So we'll go there then. Okay. This first one is, has Jennifer ever had any paranormal experiences? And if she has, will she investigate them on one of her shows?
Yes, I have. So there used to be a facility called Wheat Ridge Regional Center that was in Wheat Ridge, Colorado. I grew up in Arvada, Colorado, right on the border. I lived about a half a mile from this facility. My grandmother worked there as a young woman. She was a nurse. Back then, I believe it was called Ridge Home for the Criminally Insane. This was probably in the 40s or 50s. My grandmother was quite old when she had my father. She was in her 40s. I had several paranormal experiences there. They ended up demolishing the entire property and they built a Target on it. But when I was there, I saw things, I heard things. It was several different encounters that I had that made me think, this is not me imagining something. There's no way. I was with people when it happened. We all saw the same thing. And unfortunately, that's nothing that we can investigate now because the area has been completely bulldozed.
All right. Have you ever had sleep paralysis or an out-of-body experience?
I never had a sleep paralysis, thank goodness. I did have an out-of-body sort of experience when I was having surgery, and I've heard that that's quite common, that you're kind of there, kind of not, and you can hear what's going on and see what's happening around you, but you're still unconscious.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
That is insane, and I'm just thankful because sometimes that'll happen and the person is under enough that they can't speak out and say that they're alert, but they can feel the pain of what's happening. So I was not at that level, thankfully, but it was very weird, and I was scared when I woke up because I thought I just heard things that were going on and I just was there. But the more people I talk to, that does not seem to be as uncommon as we would think.
Okay. And have you ever heard, this should be the last one. Well, the one question was they took it back, but does she have any tips on growing up with red hair, especially growing up post Ginger episode of South Park? Yeah.
Okay. So when I grew up as a little girl, people would say to me, they'd look at my freckles and say, you need to wash your face. Your face is dirty. It was horrible.
Oh, no.
I constantly felt I had these big buck teeth and people would make fun of me. And, they would say, why is your hair orange? This sort of stuff. And I would say to every ginger out there or every girl who is all knees and elbows, because I was 5'8" when I was 12 and I was 110 pounds. So I was bigger than all the boys, and they'd say, ho, 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 green giant, as I walked down the hall in middle school. So I would say to all those gingers, all those girls who are too skinny, those are the girls who grew up to be very striking and they grew up to be models. And I wish someone would have told me, someday you'll grow up and you'll be pretty and people will like your hair, because no one ever said that. So I just thought I'm going to be this ugly sort of creature.
You thought you were going to be the ugly duckling, didn't you?
I did, because Pamela Anderson at that time was the standard of beauty. Blonde hair, blue eyes, busty, tan, and I could never be that. So if you have kids at home who are kind of struggling with that, they are perfect just the way that they are. And you really need to let them know that, and let them know that beauty comes in all shapes and sizes and colors, and you have to instill that in them, because if they don't hear it from you, they're not hearing it. What they're hearing at school is bullying and critique. So you really need to instill that in your kids.
Wow. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Jennifer, for coming on the show. It's been really cool to have you here. Yeah, I can't wait to see what you're going to do next. Although I know you're doing some more stuff next, you just can't talk about it, but can't wait to see it. And it's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I love the long form conversations. It's so much better than the small sound bites. Thank you so much to the listeners, and just thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. And to let everybody know, yes, we're going to get out of here early tonight. If you want to go to the website, go to jennifermarshall.com. Check out all of their work. Follow her on Twitter and social media. Spread the word. And go watch her stuff that she's been in too. Some really good stuff. And I want to thank all of you guys for supporting the show, that have supported the show. This just strictly me trying to get over stuff. The reason why we're getting out of here an hour early tonight. But we'll be back tomorrow night, full swing. I'm pretty sure, same time, same channel. If you can, please support the show right now. We could sure use it. And please don't copy the show without written permission. Music was by Chronox, guitar by Bundy, and a big shout out to Pacho, Eric Markham, our program director, Jeremy Scott, all of you in the Fringe FM chat. I love you guys. Thank you for your patience. It's been fun tonight. Good night.
On this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised.